Good day to all you glorious legendary resonators, you absolute lovely bastards. My name's FOXSOL. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another topic of conversation here on WutheringWaves. And hopefully wherever you're at, you're having a tremendously fantastic and glorious day. Today we're going to dissect some major storytelling issues in WutheringWaves, if you would. Now, I'm not here to go ahead and try to question your intelligence, your vocabulary, or whether you have a mental issue or not, like some content creators, just because you're struggling to connect with this story. Instead, we're going to talk about three specific problems here in WutheringWaves with its storytelling, from pacing, balance issues, as well as informational dumping, and how each of these affects the experience with the game. So, if you would, go ahead and grab a cold one, take a seat, and let's dive into this conversation together. So let's start off this conversation with the first problem that WutheringWaves story has, and that is the most notable problem: pacing. Since versions 1.0 to the present time 1.3, we've been having issues with the balancing of pacing. Pacing determines the flow of a story, right? How quickly or how slowly events unfold. And unfortunately for WutheringWaves, this often feels really off balance. There's just some parts that just drag on, and there's other parts that just seem to get rushed by. For instance, in version 1.0, we did see a lot of the story be drawn out that didn't really add much to the story. Characters would, endlessly talk about trivial matters, which slowed down the building of real emotional depth. These sections could have been trimmed down, moving the story along without losing anything meaningful. In contrast, there has been important moments in the story of WutheringWaves, like certain character introductions or significant events that just felt rushed. And this inconsistency in the pacing, well, it makes it difficult for players like myself to really get attached emotionally, because there's no rhythm to how the story unfolds. It's either dragging its feet or sprinting ahead. And along with pacing, we have something else that we call information dumping that's happening in this story, which is something that, when there's too much lore, too much backstory, or even terminology, this stuff is being thrown at players all at once. Instead of pacing out this information gradually, WutheringWaves sometimes overloads players with details and key moments, making it just a little bit harder to digest what's really going on. So, for example, take the Shorekeeper. She's a character that's tied to the Black Shores, one of the most intriguing parts right now of the game's lore. But instead of building her story, gradually, allowing us as players to get to know her and understand her connection with Rover, with the Black Shores, the game's story hits us with all these details really at once. And this is a rush of information that does not give players a chance to process just how important she really is, as well as it does not allow us as players to really develop a bond with her. Now, information dumping pretty much like this disrupts the flow of a story, in my personal opinion, and makes it harder for players to connect with new characters and plot twists, because there's no natural build-up. When key characters are introduced with an overload of information, this typically prevents a bonding process from feeling organic. In fact, we have another example that we can take a look at with all this imbalancing issues that WutheringWaves Stories provides, and this example is going to be taken based off of Encore. So, with Encore, she showed up in 1.0, and she was introduced quite quickly. We've only spent, really, in all honesty, around 15 to 30 minutes with her before she really just fades off into the background between her and Alto. And when her arc, you could say, her story arc picks up later with her companion story, with all this information dumping that we get in her companion story, it becomes to where Encore story, while it's still a good story, it just feels hollow because we haven't had enough time to build a connection with her. Alrighty, so before we continue further into the video, I want to take a quick moment here to talk about our members and thank each and every one of you guys out there who is joining the channel as a member. That truly, in all honesty, I do appreciate every single one of you. You've come onto the live streams, you've come around, you've supporting the channel. Whether you take some of my opinions, you know, with a grain of salt, you guys have been there helping me create more and more content for WutheringWaves, and it is truly appreciative. You guys are part of the Discord. We have conversations all the time, and you know what? From the live streams to the Discord, everything else, you guys truly do appreciate each and every one of you for being supportive members for this channel. Alrighty, let's get back into the video. So how do these issues really affect the player's connection in the story? Well, when the pacing is, you know, uneven, the balance feels off, and the information dumping, it happens all at once, it creates a disconnect. Players aren't given enough time to attach emotionally to a character or to the world. The story goes from moments that feel drugged out to rapid fire plot points that have heavy information dumps, leaving little room for any kind of natural emotional development. This lack of connection is especially damaging in games such as WutheringWaves, where the story is meant to be the driving force. If we're supposed to care about characters like Shorekeeper, Encore, we need to have a chance to get to know them gradually. Without this natural progression, key story moments will end up falling flat because we haven't had a time to build that real bond that we deserve. And you see, it's not all bleak with WutheringWaves. There are some good examples of good pacing and balancing. For example, a character story who was handled very effectively in WutheringWaves was GN. Unlike the rushed introductions and information dumps that we see with other characters, GN's story unfolds at a steady pace. We're given time to understand his struggles, his responsibilities, and the emotional weight that he carries on his shoulders. With GN, his pacing was deliberate. His background motivations were revealed over time, allowing players to form a bond as his story progressed naturally. There was a balance between the action. There was a balance between the meaningful interactions. We were not overwhelmed with so much information at once. Instead, his story gave us just enough to keep us invested, drawing us deeper into his journey. GN's character, I believe, shows us how effective pacing, balancing of storytelling can just enhance the player's experience. He's proof that when the story is handled with care, a player is far more likely to feel connected to that character. And you see, I'll put it like this in the end. WutheringWaves has an incredible storytelling potential. But to me, it's hindered by the issues with pacing, information dumping, just plain balancing. For this story to truly resonate, the game needs to find a smoother rhythm. Spend time where it matters. Avoid overwhelming players with information in key moments. By refining these areas, I do believe that WutheringWaves could deliver a story that's not only engaging, but much more emotionally impactful. All right, so I'll say it like this. We'll end the conversation here for now, but let me know in the comments below if you would. Do you feel like I do? Are you having issues affected? Are these issues with pacing affecting your experience with the story? Let's talk about it. And before I let you go, I'll just say it like this. If you did like, this little bit of a conversation, please consider hitting that like button. Subscribe for some more content. And as always, keep it classy, keep it jazzy, always keep it real. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Have a great day, and I'll see you again.